I had this sense of conflict. I'm half angry as hell, and I'm half optimistic, I'll take that back. I'm entirely angry, and I am entirely optimistic. I think that we're at a moment in negotiations, both in terms of Durban and in terms of Rio, where it would be quite wrong to think that good things couldn't happen. It is quite possible that good things will happen. There are niches of opportunities which could prove to be very important, and I have a sense of optimism that those chances are there. We should be taking advantage of them. If we play our cards right as civil society, we could play a remarkably important role, in fact, in making those things work better. At the same time, I am angry because of how I see governments negotiating. I'm angry most of all at our government. It's humiliating these years to be a Canadian and be in international negotiations. It's simply embarrassing, and that embarrassment carries on. But it's not just an anger at our government, unfortunately. It's an anger at most governments. They behave horribly. The negotiations are awful. And if we get anything out of either Durban or out of Rio, it will be in spite of most governments. And now we move into round 3 of this sequence. And I regret that I do believe that as much as South Africa will try its best and perhaps will succeed in positioning us into a better situation, I fear most of all about tyranny. Because everyone knows absolutely no one anywhere will tell you anything other than that there will not be an agreement coming out of Durban. One of our most important topics really is agriculture. And that's a space, again, where I think we can be optimistic. The kind of work that's going on now with Via Campesina as a peasant organization for the world, among many partners in social movements and civil societies, many people in this room, is to me encouraging in how we're perceiving how agriculture can play a role here. The danger is we should not be assuming that agriculture, again, is some kind of a bargaining chip or some kind of a tool of economic exchange for dealing with the climate. It's just too dangerous to think of it that way. We have to think about agriculture, of course, as how do we survive? How do we have food security in the decades ahead, which is a serious problem. And the starting point, in a way, can be what we see in peasant agriculture today. And it's been very encouraging to see the draft work being done by the Global Sustainability Panel I mentioned before is actually a bit of good news on this. And some of the work that's been done by the Secretary General's office around even the great green technological transformation recognizes the importance of agriculture, that there really is something to be done, and that thing that has to be done by small farmers' organizations. In fact, for the first time ever in a New York UN document, there was actually reference to small farmers' organizations as being the ones who had to take the decisions around agriculture. That's never been said before in any UN document coming out of New York, or usually coming out of Rome either. And what's encouraging in this, I think, is the recognition that the industrial agricultural model is clearly not working. The peasant model needs support, but basically has the right ideas and the right tools at hand to be able to get us through this crisis. It was interesting to have discussions in New York last week where we were talking about agriculture, and some in the room saying things like, well, you know, we have no choice but to go to the industrial model if we need to get the level of food production we need. And then someone else in the room saying, well, you know, the industrial model uses 4 times the amount of energy as the peasant model of agriculture. It takes 4 units of energy in to get 1 unit of food energy out. The model in Africa is 1 unit of energy in to get 1 unit of energy out. So who's got the right model here? We're talking about greenhouse gas emissions. Or if we look at how do we manage waste in the food system, and the huge losses because of waste, well, the model of the industrialized countries is 10 times the wastage level of the waste of food in Africa. 10 times. So who do we go to for guidance as to how to transform agriculture in the future? Do we go to the industrial model that wastes all that food, or do we go to the peasant model which knows best how to value that food and to protect it as much as possible? Not that there isn't more work needed to be done, there is.